welcome into another episode of Restaurant Hoppen. I'm your host, Dan Hoppen, and today is a good day because we get to talk about pasta, which is one of my favorite things in the world, and we get to talk about it with a man that I truly believe is one of Omaha's best up-and-coming chefs, Omaha greater area now, I guess. But not only do we have Drew Stats here, we have his uber-talented wife, Michelle, along with us as well. We are here to talk about their new restaurant, Semo Pasta and Wine, located in downtown Fremont. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
This is my pleasure. You were on the podcast a couple years ago, Drew. We were talking about it off the mics, but so much has changed between now and then, and now we have Michelle, which automatically just makes this episode better than that one. So I can't wait to just get updated on everything that's going on in you guys' lives. And that starts with Semo, which opened in downtown Fremont May 24th. So as we're recording this, we're just a little bit more than a month old. I mean, this is still a very new concept, but it's firing on all cylinders. But for someone who hasn't visited yet, I kind of want to set expectations for what Semo is. Now, on your website, you define it as European-inspired Nebraska cuisine. What does that mean to you?
In simplest terms, it's like not necessarily Italian, not necessarily French. You're going to see a lot of those influence, but really like, I don't know, foods you would find here with produce you would find from here, working with local farmers from here. And that's probably the easiest way to describe it.
Yeah.
So just to define roles, Drew, you are the head chef, and Michelle, you are sommelier and pastry chef, correct?
Pastry. I don't really have much of the wine.
I know you have a wine background, but okay, you let Jack handle most of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. So Semo is short for semolina flour, which is the Italian pasta flour widely acknowledged as one of the best for noodles. I want to say that because a lot of people that I talk to, they at first want to call it Semo.
Yep.
No, it's Semo. But knowing you, Drew, I know that you have a deep love for pasta. And while Semo's menu, it has proteins, it has vegetables, it has some seafood and some other dishes, the main heart is right in the middle of that menu, and that is the pastas. Where does your, I mean, look at your hat right now, pasta punk. Where does your deep love for pasta come from?
Crazy enough, that was my like go-to childhood meal, was just boiling pasta, eating it with butter. And yeah, then as a broke young adult, that just kind of continued. And I'm like, all right, well, let's keep doing this. And then in culinary school, I made fresh pasta for the first time, and I was like upset at how easy it was and that more people don't do it. And then from there, it was just like learning shapes, learning folds, fillings, sauces, ragouts. And then I fell in love with this whole big picture of it, the history of it, and never looked back.
Michelle, do you share that pasta love?
Yes and no. I don't know. We have different passions, I guess, when it comes to food. And then that's kind of shown in the restaurant, I guess. But I mean, I love eating it. Yeah.
So tell me about your passions when it comes to food.
Right now it's bread.
And that shows very well in the restaurant. I'll just say that.
It's just because I kind of have a science background. Bread is very like analytical. So many factors can alter it, especially when it comes to like sourdough and whatnot. And so, I've been having a lot of fun just kind of trying to nail it down and whatnot. So yeah.
You're doing a very good job. Anyone who comes into Semo and doesn't get the bread and butter as one of your appetizers is making a mistake, because that sourdough and that focaccia, just absolutely excellent. Drew, I want to get back to pasta a little bit because I'm fascinated in the process of pasta pairings, because you talked about, there are so many different noodles out there, but specific noodles pair better with different sauces, with different proteins. Like wider noodles traditionally are paired with like heartier sauces or proteins, whereas thinner noodles might be, more of an Alfredo or a creamier sauce. That's why fettuccine Alfredo is, such a popular pairing. What is like the science behind pairing noodles and the accompaniment?
That's a great question. And from what from what I've read, in Italy, the pasta always comes first. The pasta is more important. The sauce is kind of an afterthought. And in America, that's kind of very different. Most people will like be craving Alfredo, and then the pasta is kind of interchangeable, whether it's, a penne pasta or a spaghetti. And in Italy, no, they're like, we're going to have pappardelle tonight, and then we'll figure out what we're going to put with it. And really, though, so that's how we kind of build the menu. We make a pasta shape. I usually eat it with butter, and then I decide from there, like, okay, what do we want to put with this? And I don't know, butter for me is the easiest vessel, because then you can taste texture. You can see where each fold or each kind of little nook holds sauce different. And yeah, do you want something that's going to be thinner? Do you want something thick and heavy? Is it going to hold too much sauce? So I don't know. We just kind of reverse engineer it.
That's really cool. And a great example of that, and I apologize if I butcher this, but I'd never seen this noodle before. First, you had it on your Instagram, and then when you came into your restaurant, is it radiatori? Radiatori. It's this small noodle, for those watching, about that big, maybe an inch tall, maybe a little bit less, but it's just got like all these ridges and corkscrews in it. Yeah. It's a visually just arresting noodle, but I'd never seen it before. I'm sure that you've been familiar with it, but like there are thousands of different noodle types out there. Like how do you do research and find these different things?
Funny enough, I've never had it.
Really?
Or I had never had it.
Where'd you see it then?
A restaurant that I staged at in Chicago had it, and they had it on their Instagram after I was already gone, and I was like, oh, what a cool shape. I bet that eats incredibly. And I've been thinking about it for probably 5 years. And then, when it came time to buy the machine, you get to pick your pasta dies, and I was like, okay, what dies do I want? Do I want to go with kind of the safer? Do I get a spaghetti? And I was like, no. I want to get things no one's ever seen or heard of. And that's where we landed on that one. And I finally had a chance to. No one could tell me no.
When it's your restaurant, right? You get the final say on that.
Right. Yeah, and I love it. We've tweaked it. We've tweaked the ragu a little bit that goes with it since we started, but other than that, no, we fell in love with it and we don't want to change it.
What tweaks have you made?
Basically just using kind of higher fat content ground pork, better quality tomatoes. We were using a very approachable canned tomato at first, San Marzano tomato, but it just wasn't doing it for me. And we just, I don't know, tweaked it. We're finally getting to where we like it. And the fennel pollen is kind of the unsung hero of the dish.
Mm-hmm.
And the chili oil, I guess. A little bit of spice.
I would say the other thing, along with pasta, obviously, but the other thing that drives Semo is the farm-to-table concept. And that is a phrase, a buzzword that just gets thrown around. Every restaurant loves to say that now, but I think you guys have a special dedication to it. And in the lead up to your opening, you actually had an interview with the Fremont Tribune, and in there, you had a quote that said, "We are really at the mercy of whatever is available. We will print new menus each day based on what the farms deliver to us. That will dictate what the menu is." So I'd love to hear from both of you, like, what does that look like in reality? Are people just bringing stuff to your door? Are you going out to the farmer's market and you're just getting inspired by whatever's available? Like, what does that look like?
It's all of it. I mean, we met with Gordon from Grandview Farms, and he lives 2 miles from the restaurant. And he grows probably 50% of our produce. And he just sends me a text on Sunday and says, this is what I have. Maybe in a week I'll have this. If we get rain, if we don't, I don't know. And so, they just deliver. And we're like, all right. Oh, I ordered a ton of kale. Let's process some kale. Let's figure out some things for kale. And then asparagus, same deal. It was like we bought a ton of it when it was kind of in its peak, and then one day it's just, well, that's it. It's gone. We'll see asparagus next year, because we're not using any. We don't have a walk-in cooler.
Yeah. That's a big limitation for us.
Oh,
We have a
wow.
very small cooler, so we're not able to, unfortunately, like preserve strawberries and bring them out in January, February, or whatnot. I mean, we got to order small, which helps everything stay fresh, and so everything's just constantly rolling and moving through the restaurant. So
Yeah, we don't have space to buy a case of something. We're going to buy 6 pounds of it and then move 6 pounds and then get something else.
yeah,
But it's fun too. It keeps us on our toes. We're always using something different, and
it keeps everything fresh too. Like,
And it keeps it
we're
fresh.
not, we don't have that's
kind
just
of-
rotting there. Or,
yeah, it forces our hand
yeah, yeah.
in a way.
Well, I think yes, it keeps the food fresh, but it also keeps the menu fresh.
Yes.
Like, I can be confident anytime I come into Semo, yes, there are going to be certain dishes that will probably be present, but there are also going to be things that are switched up every single time. So if I want that dish I had last time, there's a good chance it'll still be there, but there's 3 or 4 more interesting things that I can try. But I also, like, I imagine that puts pressure on you guys as chefs, because it's like, you even mentioned with the farmer, he's like, hey, I might have asparagus if it rains this week. If not, I won't have any. So you can't like plan on having an asparagus dish on the menu. You can maybe map it out, but you can't be like, oh yeah, that's going to be there. Or, like he comes in and says, hey, I have a ton of, like you mentioned, kale this week. And all of a sudden you got to be like, okay, we need a kale dish and we need it now. Like, what does that pressure look like for you guys?
I think pressure is probably the best word, because we have a commitment, to our younger team to keep them learning. And when you have, and I use kale for example because I ordered some from a farmer, and then another gal, when she was delivering, she was like, hey, I have all of this and the bugs are going to eat it, so I just picked it and it's a gift.
Oh, wow.
And now all of a sudden, very generous, but I have a 50-inch cooler that's half full of kale. So now it's like, let's get creative. Let's make sauces. Let's make pesto. Let's try to stain a pasta dough with it. Let's do everything. More than just, all right, we're going to run a kale salad till it's gone. Because we have a commitment to our farmers also to not waste anything. We don't want to throw anything away. We don't want anything to spoil. It's a waste of their time and our money.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's the pressure. How do we use everything respectfully? How does everybody win in this?
Other than kale, what's an example of that?
Carrots. So when you buy carrots, they come with carrot tops. And I would argue you yield 2 to 1 the amount of carrot tops as you do actual carrots.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, a carrot's going to be 6 inches long, and the carrot tops are going to be 1.5 feet.
Okay.
So we're making salsa verde out of it. We're garnishing plates with it. Treating it like someone might treat a microgreen. Because I really enjoy the carrot tops. I think they're delicious. The flowers too. If they ever go to seed, the carrot flowers are one of my favorites.
So what inspires you guys? If all of a sudden you come in and you've got just a boatload of carrot tops,
Yeah.
How do you? I mean, does your mind just immediately start thinking like, "Hey, salsa verde," or we could garnish this plate with it, or like, how do you get inspired by? I have all of this product. What do I do with it now? Where does that inspiration come from?
A lot of it for me is previous restaurants, just like techniques I've learned along the way. When I started at a restaurant in Dundee, it was like they were making carrot tops into ravioli, and they were making this like green ravioli dough.
Whoa!
And I was blown. I'd never seen anything like it. And then the process for it, right? Blanching them, straining all the excess water out, and making this kind of super bright green carrot top puree. It's like, okay, what if I could mount that into a sauce like a pesto? What if I could replace, something common with something uncommon? And then, yeah, that's where it goes from there. And then different techniques we read a lot of books.
Yeah.
We read a lot of books. And anytime we can see a new technique, we're like, oh, we should try that. Oh, they use parsley. Maybe we use carrot top, or they use something else. Maybe we find something to, mix this in with. And I think books are probably the biggest tool we have.
Yeah.
Every restaurant and every chef says that they want to provide great hospitality, but there are some that go above and beyond. And that is something that I definitely remember from your time working at Dante, and it is extended over to Semo now, Drew, that there is this attention to each guest that is not like, it's not another ticket.
Yeah.
It's not another number. It's not another, hey, we're going to make $150 off that table at the end of the night. It's, we genuinely want these people to have a good time and enjoy their meal. Where does that desire and that just heart of hospitality come from in you two?
I think honestly, it's us going to Chicago to eat at some of those restaurants is what really like, oh, this is what going out to eat is. Like, this is just, it was unlike anything we had before when we went to go to Chicago to eat.
In what way? Like, what stood out?
We went to a restaurant, and I made the reservation that we were coming, and we had both started very young in our career. I was just started running Ovely. Michelle had just started running Dario's. And yeah, we just put the reservation notes in that we were from Omaha and we work in restaurants. They Googled us and found out. So when we arrive at this restaurant, they look at Michelle and they said, "Chef, we have your table ready for you."
Oh my gosh.
Blown away. I've never seen anything like it. We went to another restaurant and they were like, "Hey, we were pouring this wine by the glass tonight and we don't have enough for a full. Would you two like just a sample of it?" And it was a cool thing. We'd never felt anything like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, just taking care of people was, seeing how they took care of people is how we want to take care of people. It was a cool thing.
Yeah, that's what really sparked it. It was our trip to Chicago. And we wanted to bring that here because, I don't know, it's it makes you never forget that experience when you have, I mean, we have not forgotten those experiences, and it's been 5+ years.
Oh, if not longer, yeah.
Yeah.
And what are some of those above and beyond touches that you try to apply at Semo?
I mean, it's unique for every table, I guess. Sometimes they leave notes, which is when they make the reservation, which is helpful.
It's going to sound crazy. We watch our guests and we pay attention to their habits, their likes, their dislikes. I don't know, there are certain cues that I just remember and I don't think I could forget them.
Well, and like you said earlier, it's not another table. It's not another ticket. You've got to find a common ground with that table to create a conversation. It's not just sit down, waters, drinks, appetizers. There's little bits of time that you can create connection within those, creating those. And then, like I said, it's kind of unique to what we do for tables, I guess, depending on the table. So.
Well, I would love to give a personal example because this is, I can't even tell you how much my wife lit up when we came in on Saturday. My wife's favorite dish in the world is spaghetti carbonara. Yeah. And just in our time at Dante, I don't even remember how it came up in conversation, but we mentioned that to you, and you made a habit over the years of us dining at Dante that you were going to give her, maybe just a side dish or something of spaghetti carbonara, regardless of what she ordered. But carbonara was almost always on the menu at Dante. That wasn't a super, it wasn't crazy to make a little bit extra and give it to her. We had absolutely no expectation that would ever happen, either at Dante or moving over to Semo. And yet Saturday, we're in the middle of our meal, and Drew, by the way, the kitchen is slammed. The restaurant's full. Drew is working hard back there, and he comes out and has this little bowl, not like a huge portion, but a little bowl of spaghetti carbonara, which is not on your menu, for Sarah. I can't even tell you how happy it made her. Like, just a little thing like that, just showing that personal touch that, hey, we do care about you. That makes all the difference in the world. And that went from, this is a very good meal, to this is a meal that we're going to remember. Like what you just said, Michelle. That's something I think we'll be talking about for years. So I guess that's not really a question. I just wanted to give you guys a shout out and let people know, like, it's not just talk at a table on a podcast. They're living it out and doing it for real. So let's get away from food for a second. I want to focus on you guys. How did you guys meet?
Culinary school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where in culinary school? Like, tell me. Like, was it like an instant connection, or how did this happen?
It was Metro. Baking, or no, not baking basics. Intro to cooking, one. Summer class. I was still going to UNL, so I have a degree from UNL.
In culinary science, correct? Yes.
Yep. And I took a summer class there at Metro where we met, and he happened to take too. And then you were going to leave to go to New York to cook.
Yeah.
And he left, but we still kept talking. And then you came back. And yeah.
Just kind of started up from there?
Yeah.
It was fun. We were in class, and everyone was kind of finishing up their projects. And I saw her yelling at some kids about not helping with the dishes, and I was like, oh, she's the one. She wasn't going to say it. I'll put her on the spot. And I was like, she's the one.
That and your team stole all the pulled pork for the Cuban sandwiches that one time. Didn't leave any for the rest of us.
Yeah, she was just, I don't know. Well, it ended up being her and I doing dishes probably every day. And we just talked. And then, yeah, it had this weird thing where, like, well, you came to the restaurant I was working at once or twice. And it was like the only friend from school that was like, oh, you're in a restaurant. You want to be in a real restaurant, not a, you're not trying to run an Olive Garden or something. Not to discredit. It's probably a better way to word that. But, yeah.
That makes sense.
She came out to support what we were trying to do, just as young cooks. And then, yeah, I moved to New York. We ended up talking every night while I was in New York. And then I don't know, it just became obvious my time there was done. And I came back to Omaha, and we had a pretty good time after that.
And now you've been married for how many years?
4 years.
4 years.
And you have two of the most adorable children. Shout out to Harry and Ellie. And listeners, if you want to see what loving parents look like, follow these two on Instagram, because they are constantly posting videos and photos of their kids just doing adorable things, cooking, taking walks. It's been really fun to watch. I almost feel like I've watched Harry grow up from afar, which seems crazy and honestly kind of creepy to say that, but like,
It's how it goes.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. So I love that you guys share your personal lives on social media too, because that kind of brings the restaurant to life more as well.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about you guys' previous experiences, and we don't need to go into all the other restaurants that you worked at, but you were working at different restaurants at different times. But was there always a goal in your mind, whether it was one of you or both of you having the shared vision of opening your own place someday?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep, that was always the goal.
we didn't know what it looked like or what kind of place it would be or any of the details, but yeah, it's too punk rock to work for someone else forever. Yeah, I don't like rules. I don't like listening to other people, which I guess I still have a boss, but but no, it was like I knew someday that we would do it for us.
Yeah.
And you said you didn't know what that looked like originally. At what point did it start to become a little bit more clear?
Oh, I still don't know if it's clear. No, go ahead.
I mean, just our experiences, whether the places we've worked in the past or places we've gone to eat.
Sure.
We've kind of picked things that we like from all those places. And Obviously, it's got to work. It's got to make sense. It's got to make money. Yeah, and then it's kind of it's going to be ever evolving for sure.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think it should be. Any restaurant that just stays the same runs a very high risk of getting stale, and I don't think that's you guys at all. Now, Drew, I mean, we talked about you were the executive chef at Dante. That is, in my opinion, one of Omaha's best restaurants. It's been around for close to 15 years now, so it has all kinds of stability. Like, that's a very good position to be in. You got to have a lot of conviction if you're going to leave that spot to go run your own place. At what point did you know that it was the right time to take that leap and chase that shared vision that you guys had?
When Ellie came home from the hospital.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when she came home, and our agreement was, when she came home, I would take 2 weeks off. And that first night at home, I was just like, if I'm going to do this, I should do it for all of us. And that was it. I made the phone call the next morning to the people that helped make it happen. And then, that started day one of, like, I don't want to say this double life, but that was day one of me working on this project.
And how hard is that? Because obviously chef life is very time consuming to be able to, and it's not like you were sacrificing any of your work at Dante at that point. You still providing an excellent experience for your guests, but you're also, kind of creating the shared vision together. How do you make all that happen at once?
I just kind of let him do his thing.
Well, that's a great question. I mean, we weren't even necessarily looking. The goal at the time was just like, get as much money put aside as possible. And then I looked at a few places and they were all just wrong. And I was like, well, I don't know what finding the right place even looks like. And I got a phone call saying, hey, I know a guy. He's within a mile from your house who has a restaurant for sale. You should take a look at it. And it was love at first sight. I walked in and I was like, I have to have it. And we'll make the rest work. And then, so basically, because Dante was a full-time commitment. There are so many moving parts and they're so ambitious as far as what restaurant goals really look like, that there isn't time to not work on that. So, basically Mondays. And then in any bit of downtime I had was just all focused on the project. I didn't go to birthday parties. I didn't go to weddings. It was like every time I wasn't at work, we were working on this.
I want to back up a little bit.
Please.
You said when you got in, or when you toured this space that you guys are currently in, it was love at first sight.
Yeah.
And that's a common refrain that I hear from restaurateurs is that they'll go and they'll tour other places and it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
But when they find the spot, even if it's an old restaurant that's dilapidated and it's got mold and slime everywhere, or maybe it's just a completely empty place where there's nothing in it at all, but they just know somehow. How did you guys know?
I think it's kind of like buying a house. You've got boxes you want to check, and we had boxes that we wanted to have checked. We really wanted a not too big, somewhat smaller spot, something with character, and then having an open kitchen. It was kind of a box for us that we wanted checked, and in Fremont.
To you guys, what is the value of the open kitchen?
It's just fun to see guests. I mean, to actually see them, enjoy your food. And then there's kind of an honesty, too, that the guests are seeing their food being made.
Because I work either the grill or pasta every night. And from those stations, I can see the front door and I see every single person that walks in. And I can wave at every single person that walks in. And that's it for me. Like, everyone goes to work and works hard for their money and they're choosing to give it to us. Like, I want to see who those people are. So many kitchens, you're kind of like tucked away in a dungeon and you never even meet the people that are eating your food. And this, now I see every single table. And it's a cool thing.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool to hear that. I'll just say from a diner's perspective, it's really cool too. I mean, especially as someone who loves food and is a nerd like me, to watch my food being created, like that's a joy. Like if I get up and, go to the bathroom or something, walk down that hallway, I'm 5-6 feet from my food being created. I can see it being plated and watch, how certain elements are put together. It's a lot of fun.
We have a lot of people that will just kind of come to the edge of the kitchen and just stand and watch, and we love it. It's a chance to say hi. It's a chance to it's another thing that kind of holds us accountable too. We can't do anything greasy because we are always being watched. What's a better way to say that? I don't know. It just reinforces it. I think a lot of places want to keep their restaurant clean. I mean,
we have to.
People can see if we're being dirty.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't allow anyone to be dirty.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's cool. It's fun that people can just, peek over the ledge and say hi.
Now, you guys have both managed restaurants and been pretty high up in authority at restaurants, but now you're at the top. Like everything about this place is yours, and you get to do what you want with it. What is that like?
Like you said before, teaching the younger cooks and servers, kind of bringing the next generation up, I guess. Kind of like that's kind of what it means to me. Because I feel like COVID kind of took a lot of people away from the industry, a lot of experienced, awesome people that worked in the industry. And now there's this hole, I guess, that needs filled. And it's kind of our job to train them right and not be greasy cooks and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Well, on my side of it was maybe I'll see something and get inspired by it, and I'll say, "Oh, I want to bring in this." A lot of times I'm met with, "That's too expensive. That's not the right image here. This doesn't fit what we're trying to do here." Well, now I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to buy it. If I want to get I'm trying to think of a good example. If I want to buy a pound of truffles, nobody's going to say no.
Do you like truffles? I'm not aware if you like truffles or not.
They're all right. I do enjoy some. At the chiropractor this morning, he's like, "Yeah, you have tendonitis from
shaving truffles."
I was like, "Man, my wrist hurts." And he's like, "Yeah, you're going too hard with the truffles."
Michelle, what is that feeling like? You mentioned bringing up the next generation and teaching these young cooks what it's like. What is it like for you guys when you see something click for them, especially the young ones who are maybe working in a kitchen for the first time, to see that light bulb go on, whether it's them getting a technique, whether they are putting a flavor combination together for the first time, whether they're making a suggestion that you're just like, "Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Thank you for suggesting it." What's it like for you guys to see that light bulb go on for them?
That's you, because I'm baking the bread during the morning and he's there at night cooking with them. So,
the best analogy I can give, it's like in the spring when you have your little tray of seeds and you start them and you watch them every day, and one day one pops, and it's all the excitement right there. All the focus is right there. And then as the rest of them come up too, now you have this beautiful garden starting. And that's how I think the kitchen feels.
I know part of the reason that you guys wanted to open a restaurant in Fremont is obviously proximity. Like you said, it's a mile from your house. That's super convenient, easy to get down there, easy to, have a family. That's awesome. But I think in reading some of your quotes in previous articles that I've read, it was also very important for you guys to bring something back to the community in Fremont and provide something specifically for them. What was important about that for you?
Well, Fremont has a lot of fast food and a lot of great Mexican restaurants. Those are the two things that Fremont has. But they don't really have a nice place to go out to eat. If you're celebrating something special, or just like a good, everyone says there needs to be a good steakhouse. Well, we're not a steakhouse, but we do try to always have a steak or two in the menu. Just because Fremont doesn't have that. And yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was like, I don't know. We just want to do something nice. And now we have a platform to do it. We have a platform to, like, maybe a lot of restaurant models are kind of built on, you pay servers $2 an hour and they live on tips, and you pay kitchen staff minimum wage and you just cycle through them. And now we're in this spot where, like, all right, we don't have to do this. We don't have to follow this model. So it's like, let's pay everyone a livable wage and let's kind of recreate this culture a little bit. And I don't know. We have this power now. Let's use it for good, not evil, right?
How exciting is that for you guys? Because you guys have lived in this culture, and that restaurant culture has been in place for a long time at a lot of restaurants. And there are some that do it differently. There's some that break the mold, for sure. But it has just kind of been accepted for so long that, those rules that you just said, those are in place. And I think that's why, from talking to people, why a lot of, especially servers and cooks, left the restaurant industry after COVID, because they got other jobs or had different experiences where they realized that didn't have to be the reality. And now, I would love to see more restaurants that are like you guys kind of break the mold. How exciting is that to kind of get to recreate that structure and say, no, this thing that we know that is broken, we've experienced its brokenness, we're not going to continue to do that. We think we have a different model that can make our people happier and keep them around longer.
Yeah, I mean, we hope it takes off. Not like right away overnight, but hope maybe someone who wants to open a restaurant, down the line sees what we're doing and, like, this is the right way. This is how it should be. This is how I'm going to do it. Because I've worked as a server, and I've also worked front of house and back of house. I've done a chef, cook, and a server, and they're both difficult jobs. But kitchen staff is not paid enough in most places. They're just not. And it's not fair that they're usually there longer than the servers. They'll clock in before the server, the back of house will clock in before the servers and out after the servers leave. And it's not fair. It's not right, because everyone is important in the restaurant. The dishwasher probably being the most important and probably receives the least amount of compensation in most places. Because if you don't have a dishwasher,
you're screwed.
It's awful.
It's sticky.
He's there at 2 a.m., doing dishes and everything.
Yeah, it gets sticky. I don't know. We paid our staff last week, and you watch someone open a paycheck and they're like, hey, I think this is wrong. And I was like, no, you've earned this. And they're like, I can finish paying off this school quarter now. I can buy my books for next quarter. And it's like, yes, this is why we wanted to do this. This is the platform we wanted. And hopefully it works.
Sounds like it's certainly off to a good start. And it's always refreshing to go into a restaurant multiple times and see the same faces again and again. And I'll give a shout out to Dante. I mean, going back to Dante, I see the same, 5 or 6 servers just about every time. I'm pretty sure, Marcus, our server there, shout out to him. He's awesome, but he's been there for like the last 5 years for my wife and I, like almost every single time. And you can tell that those are like healthy cultures that are created where people want to stick around. I love that you guys are really working hard to establish that. And I just want to give a shout out to you guys in terms of building out the restaurant, because if you want to see people work, go back on Semo's Instagram account. There is pictures and video of you guys Michelle, you're out in the backyard. You are building and sanding chairs.
Yeah.
You guys built the bar yourself. You built the tables. There's video you sweeping and sanding the floor. Like
Oh,
you,
floors. Floors were going to kill me.
you built this thing from the ground up. Like
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine that balance of like you're so excited. You finally get this thing. It's yours, and you want to make it look perfect. But there's so much day-to-day work that you have to do to get to this pie in the sky thing. Like, how difficult was it to move from here to here?
I mean, we were really ecstatic, probably about 90% of the way, and then that last 10, it was just like, oh, come on, we just want to be open. We just want to be open. We just want to be open. But I mean, we had help. We had he's their general manager, Jack Choquette, helped out a lot. You and him did the floors. My dad helped build like the shelving, because I was with the kids most of the time, and your grandma would watch the kids sometime. Yeah, Jack, my dad, and grandma. That's how we got there.
Honestly, like, I mean, Jack was there with me 12 hours a day, literally stripping grime off the floors, refinishing
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And he's, I mean, a little more construction savvy than me also. So I'm like racking my brain on what's the best way to do this. And he's just like, no, we're just going to do it. We did. And yeah, I mean, I couldn't imagine being here without Jack.
Yeah. And he's still with us. He's like I said, he's our general manager, and he does the wine.
Mm-hmm.
He does the tasting and the ordering and stuff like that, because he's there during the night and can recommend bottles and whatnot. But yeah, he's...
Well, and that's the biggest thing, right? This isn't as... it's not as much as I can do, or it's not what I've seen and learned. It's like how much getting the right people to help us. Because I can't be talking to tables. I can't talk to every single table. I can't put out fires. I can't do the schedule and then cook also, and then do the bills and then do everything. So it's like finding people that believe in this and that want to come out and support us and help us. That's the difference maker.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's talk about the menu. You guys have so much experience working in restaurants. You've dined all over the country. I mean, you still remember experiences from Chicago. Like, I can't even imagine just a cavalcade of ideas that you have for dishes in your mind. But it's a small kitchen, and you want to keep that menu tight. You don't want to have a menu with 50 things on it.
No.
That decreases quality. It doesn't have to decrease quality, but it most likely is going to. How, especially as you're working out the opening menu and determining these are dishes that we want to have on here just about every time, how do you take just this huge cloud of ideas in your head and dwindle it down to, okay, here's the 5 appetizers we're going to have, the 5 or 6 pastas, and the 5 or 6 main dishes?
And that was a challenging one because we didn't know what the opening menu was going to be, because we were like, you know, RP is going to be available. What are the farms going to have? You know, we had some proteins kind of lined up that we knew we wanted to work with. But as far as what to put it with, we didn't know. And then the other hard part is like, a lot of times you design a dish and you're like, this doesn't feel right. And it doesn't feel right because it's something that would have fit well somewhere else. And it doesn't fit the identity of where you are now. And I don't know, that's been the weirdest part. I've been cooking my version of someone else's food within someone else's parameters for the last 8 years. What is my food? I don't know yet. I don't think I'll know for another year, maybe 2. Like, we do something different on the bolognese every time we make it. Just because it's still not where I want it. I shouldn't say not where I want it, but it's still, we're always chasing like, let's make it 1% better next time. How do we do that? Well, let's add a little of this, less of that. And yeah, so that's where we are now. What is our style? What is the restaurant's personality?
I want to dig into that idea of your food a little bit, or my food, however you want to determine it, because I just that concept is so fascinating. Like everybody has their own like food fingerprint almost, where
Sure.
it is distinctly yours, and it takes my mind to the show Top Chef, which my wife and I absolutely adore. People can have their varying opinions on it, but one of the things that I like so much about that show is so often when the contestants get critiqued, it's when they try and go outside of their lines too much, outside the things that they're comfortable with. And at the judges' table, Tom Colicchio, the famous chef, goes, "Cook your food, cook your fingerprint," basically. So, like, what is that concept? What is it when you say, "I don't know what my food is yet"? What are you searching for?
That is
We're getting into like an
that is a
existential
great question.
here.
I don't know, because I look at like what we want our food to have, and it's always ingredients first. A dish will never be better than its ingredients, and then technique second, because why get something nice and then just cook it wrong? And then we're always trying to do a little bit of elevation, whether it's a nicer cheese, a different finishing oil. We're looking at like, okay, how do we put stuff into a whipping siphon? How do we freeze something or give it a different texture? And like, how do we elevate? Because at some point, it's not enough to just cook good food. I read the other day, it said, the enemy of the best is good.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that, because I was at a point where like things were becoming good and they weren't their best, but we just told ourselves we were too busy to, really focus in on something to make it the best. And now that we've kind of re-geared it, it's like, okay, this has to be the best. Michelle with the breads, she's doing different techniques on the bread every day, chasing, making it better every day. We used to make a kind of a thinner focaccia, and now we like doubled the size of it and made it just real thick, and it's so good. And bread's our top selling item. And
now we put like a little finishing salt on top, and it adds some extra flavor rather than just plain salt. And
so that's just been it. Like, we're eating it every day, tweaking it every day, trying to improve it every day. And I think, then I think then we'll find out what it really is to be ours.
Tell me about that bread chase, Michelle.
I don't know. I have an idea of how I want it, and I'll bake the loaves in the morning, and then I'll let them cool, and I'll leave, and I'll text him like, "Come on, Open, send me a picture. I want to see it." But I mean, I kind of have an idea of what I want, and I'm just always chasing it. So, yeah.
Okay. Friends and family nights were in late May. There was, I believe, a Friday and a Saturday where you guys opened your doors for the first time and had guests in. What do you remember most about those nights? Or days? You're baking the bread that day, or you're getting customer feedback the next day. What do you remember most about that weekend, I guess?
Go ahead.
Well, for me, all the things that we didn't think that we needed, we're like, oh, we need this, we need this. It's just amazing about how much you need for a restaurant.
Yeah.
But that's just what stuck out to me.
Like what?
Oh, I don't even know.
Bathroom trash cans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bags that fit bathroom trash cans.
Because there was hardly anything in that restaurant when we got it. So it was kind of from the ground up sort of thing.
Ice. We're going and buying ice every day. And it's like, oh, we didn't get enough. We have to go back and get more. I have a charcoal grill that I have used twice in a restaurant setting, and it's like a nice hardwood charcoal. But I didn't know how to use it. I've never used it inside really. And we used it, and it smoked the restaurant out. Every day for a week, we would smoke the restaurant out because I just didn't know I don't know. I didn't know how to use it. Now we have it figured out, and now it doesn't smell as campfire-y when you walk in. But yeah, we literally had servers like standing at the door with menus, like trying to fan smoke outside. But it's fun. People look back and they see me struggling with it, and we make a smile, and they smile, and they understand. Like, yeah, these kids are figuring this out.
Yeah.
And the support's been crazy. Yeah, the grill was one, and yeah, being busy. I really thought we were going to start slow, kind of organically grow into something. And then, no, it was the opposite. And we're more than thankful.
You serve great food, you give great service, people will come out. And I think that's what you guys are experiencing right now. Now, we can't get out of here without talking about, yeah, you know exactly what I'm about to bring up, the Guy Fieri experience.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So, in late May,
Yeah.
to be clear, you guys had not opened yet.
No.
I think you were supposed to open later that week, or maybe it was the next week. But so you're a couple days away from opening.
Mm-hmm.
But Guy Fieri, Food Network superstar,
Yeah.
is first he was in Council Bluffs to open up one of his restaurants, and then he was in Omaha to promote his tequila brand at Wine, Beer, and Spirits.
Yeah.
And you get a call from your buddy and your investment partner over at Wine, Beer, and Spirits, and he has a message for you. I'm going to let you take the story from there and what happened over the next couple hours.
Well, they called me midnight Saturday after the soft open. We got our butts kicked. I don't know why they call them soft opens. They're very hard. They're very hard. But no, we got our butt kicked, and we're like, hey, we met Guy Fieri at the Bret Michaels concert, and we're going to try to get him to come to Fremont tomorrow. And I was like, call me in the morning. I was like, he's not going to come to Fremont for a chef no one's heard of, for a restaurant that's not open, from Council Bluffs. And then, yeah, so I'm there like at 5 o'clock, just doing like my orders for the week, just looking at all the things that I want to change before we actually open. And
Like buying trash cans for the bathroom.
Literally like buying trash cans, like just refiguring the whole restaurant, right? Trying to fix all the things that we saw from the soft open.
Right.
And right in the middle of this, I get the call like, we're coming with Guy Fieri, and he wants you to have a TV there. And so I call Michelle.
Game going on, yeah.
I'm like, so I need you here. It's only me and you tonight. And can you take the TV off the wall and bring it to the restaurant?
Oh my gosh.
And she did. And I mean, he walks through the front door and he's literally like a superstar. There's like doves flying behind him. There's like rays of light coming in. Like, he is a superstar. And he walks in and, he's like, chef, thank you for having us. Cool space you have. And then he just starts walking over to the coolers and like pulling stuff out and thumbing through stuff. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, do whatever, you're Guy Fieri. And then, yeah, we just cooked for him. Him and, probably 10 people in his group. And then, right at the end of it, I walk out and we're, talking to him, and he just starts talking like the chef language. He's, all right, so how many covers are you trying to do? All right, you got this space. How many nights are you open? What's your social media presence? He's like, I think he saw that he had a short window, and he's like, I'm going to give this kid whatever I can in the short window I have it. And then, he signed a plate, took a picture out front. I tried to hit the pose with him. Jack and I always do this pose. I tried to hit the pose, and he was like, no.
He wasn't having it?
He wasn't having it.
Really?
No, which is good, because it would have been too much if he did it. But, yeah, and then from there, it was like my phone didn't stop ringing. Like, Omaha food lovers found out about it. They blew it up. And then the World Herald calls me. The Fremont paper calls me, the Lincoln paper calls me, and all of a sudden, like, okay, we're going to be busy. And then I turned on reservations online, and we were sold out every night. Like, over the moon, blown away by how much traction it got, how much support it got.
I want to go back to the moment when you get the call, because as we've talked about, you guys have a menu that's constantly changing based off what's fresh, what's available.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, hey, Guy Fieri's coming in perfect. I'll cook him, my best 3 dishes or whatever. These are best sellers. You didn't even know what your best sellers are at that point because you didn't have any sellers. You weren't open yet. How in basically, I think it was like an hour's time or something along those timelines. How did you come up with the menu? Because I can only imagine the pressure of this. I mean, this is Guy Fieri. You want to serve him a great meal. This guy's had tens of thousands of meals throughout the country, and you want to stand out in some way, or at least not stand out in a bad way. How did you come up with that menu on the fly?
Oh, I mean, that's restaurants. We're always trying to hit the curve. And I looked in the cooler and I was like, well, I know I'm going to make him pasta, and I know I'm going to be rolling pasta when he walks in. It was like something I was like, I'll time everything to where if we're doing a pasta place, it's something to be seen actually making the pasta right there. And yeah, so I basically went to the cooler and I got a ribeye and I cut 2 of the biggest steaks I could cut, and I lit the grill outside and I started making pasta. And as I'm making pasta, because you're stationary and you're stuck and you can't move. So I'm like, all right, what else do I have? Okay, I'm going to give him all of the bread we have in house. And yeah, it's just like, what do we have? Funny enough, I got the blood sausage out and I was ready to make it. And he's like, Chef, I'm just going to tell you, I don't personally enjoy Boudin Noir. I lived in France. He's like, I cooked in France for a lot of years. I never took a liking to it. And I don't know if anyone else in my party would take a liking to it either. And I was like, whew, I almost served Guy Fieri something that he was going to hate. And yeah, it was just like, when we have beautiful farm produce, even if I just put it out raw, it's going to be good. And he kind of saw that. And when he starts pulling stuff out, and I looked at what he was excited about, and I'm like, okay, we'll put that on. He's like, oh, these are really nice, French breakfast radish. I'm like, cool. We're going to give him radishes. If he makes a comment about something, well, of course I'm going to serve it. I had 1 little truffle left from our soft open. And so, yeah, we just shaved the whole thing, which is, I like to shave the whole truffle. And yeah, we just shaved the whole thing down, and then we send these steaks out, and we drop the steaks off, and just like on the show, like his eyes roll back, and he's like, cool, we're doing good. And then yeah, I just hung out in the kitchen and cleaned up and basically tried to stay out of their way. But it was a once in a lifetime experience that
last question about Guy is, you had a quote in the World Herald where you said that he was blown away by how much we buy local and how much we make in-house. Yeah. Again, this is a guy who has toured thousands, if not tens of thousands of restaurants. For him to make that comment to you guys when you have really staked your claim as restaurateurs on, we are going to focus on local, we are going to focus on making things ourselves. When that guy says that to you, what kind of validation does that give you?
All of it. It was everything we needed to hear. It was that confirmation that you are making the right answer, not the easy answer. And that was all we needed to double down.
Okay, I got one more question for you guys, and I need an answer from both of you. You've worked in restaurants almost your entire lives. You've been involved in food. You've gone to culinary school. You've done all this. But you kind of mentioned this earlier, Drew. It's always been someone else's vision. It's been doing what someone else told you to do, what someone else taught you how to do.
Yeah.
Now you have Semo, and it's your own, and you can do whatever you want with it. Yeah. What is that, now that you're a month in and you've had a little time to digest and go through some of the hiccups and go through some of the highs, what is it like to just sit back and go, we have our thing now? This thing that we've been thinking about and chasing our whole lives, we have it. What's that feeling like?
I mean, I don't know. We say every day, like, "Oh, we have our own place. We have our own place." It's. I was comparing it when we first started opening to someone getting like a doctorate degree. You know, like we've easily spent 10 years in a restaurant working up to this goal. Like that's 8 years of the doctorate degree.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's kind of what it feels like. You work this hard for this long for this goal, and we finally got it.
For me, I don't know. Maybe it hasn't set in yet because there is a familiarity of like, well, I've been making pasta for years and it's still rolling out eggs. You know, it's still rolling eggs and flour. But I look out there and now it's like friends I've met along the way, family, and people I've never met the people that I've never met that come up and say, we're so happy you're here. We're so happy you're doing this. We love what you're doing. There's no feeling like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. The support has been unreal.
There's no feeling like it.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's something I feel I commonly have to do. I have to check myself after I go to a restaurant, especially when I have a great experience, because I immediately want to go like, if I go eat somewhere and I have a great time, I just want to be like, that's one of the best restaurants in Omaha. And if I compiled my list of every restaurant that I say that about, it's like 40 deep, and you can't have 40 best restaurants. But Semo is one of those places. Legitimately, I feel confident saying that about like one of my favorite places, not only to eat, because the food is fantastic, but to dine and to have that experience. And I mean, Dane, our server, both times, money. He has been so friendly, and you walk in the door, he recognizes us, and he says, "Hey, Dan, how's it going? Hey, Sarah, how are you?" To have that is so special, and I know you guys aren't having any trouble with reservations right now, but if anyone is listening or watching to this and thinking, should I go dine at Semo? Yes, you very much should. So I have to throw that out there because I am such a fan of you guys. I'm such a fan of your work, everything that you put into this, and I think that you have created something really special. I thank you so much for all the work that you put into it, and thank you for coming on the show today and giving us an hour. You are very, very busy people, and you gave me an hour of your time. I'm very grateful for that.
No, thank you.
Omaha, as always, thanks for eating with us.